Hello, this is Awakening Talk with Danielle.
And Earl.
And today we're going to talk about a whole bunch of different stuff.
Whole bunch of crazy stuff.
We might.
Whole bunch of exciting, crazy stuff. It's so fun.
Earl's got a crazy face right
now.
Hmm.
So this weekend was like, it was really tough. I had a horrible day Sunday. I had just anger.
Lots of anger. You had some anger issues.
There's a lot of energy coming in. A lot of stuff was like coming up and hacking out, and had some detox going on.
It's kind of nasty. We went on vacation last week. It was actually the Friday before we left to go down to Tybee Island, and it was awesome. And we didn't get any sleep. Pretty much maybe one day. Sleep the entire time.
Very horrible sleep, but we were so excited to see the sunshine.
Yeah, to see the sun and the beach.
So it didn't matter.
It was really great. And so we had our kids with us. We have 2 kids. And at any rate, we went down there, and it was fantastic. And we got to see the beach, and we got to see the sun, and that was really nice. And it was so warm. And we saw lots of really cool things. And actually, part of that is kind of interesting about, like, we saw these jellyfish wash up on the beach. And I've never seen that before. And Earl said, he's seen jellyfish wash up on the beach before. But it was crazy the amount of jellyfish that washed up on this beach. Hundreds and hundreds of jellyfish on this beach.
I forget what species the lady that told us there, but it's just like a little ball, just kind of like cut off at the bottom. It's just this little ball. It didn't have the trails or anything like a lion's mane.
It was about that big.
It was just about this big,
The ball was about that big, but then the things were about that big that hung off on the bottom.
Yeah, and so it's really, really bizarre, but they weren't like stringy like the ones I saw in the Pacific Ocean or anything. So
yeah, they were really weird. And it was funny because we went to this marine center there on the beach, and the marine center people, the marine biologists, they were talking about how the sea turtles eat those, and also the seagulls really liked.
Seagulls were
having dinner time.
So, by the way, we're going to talk about some really awesome stuff. So, stick around towards the end because there's going to be this huge truth bomb moment. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah. Don't get rid of us yet. Anyway, so anyway, we went on vacation, and we there was lots of pollen, and we both kind of got. Well, I didn't have a problem, but he did, and our daughter did because they both have allergies, and my son and I. We didn't get anything. We were fine. We just didn't get any sleep. And my son got cold for some reason. And then, like, he finally warmed up. But it really wasn't that bad. But we didn't get any sleep. And we came home and kind of crashed for a day. Poor Earl had to go to work the next day.
Yeah.
So the kids and I, we went to sleep. We slept like all afternoon. Yeah, but he's happy about that. Anyway, then we had the weekend, like a couple days later, and it was actually really nice because we all got sick. So the moon energies were like intense, and so also not only that, but there were lots of solar flares. So I don't know if you know anything about CMEs, but that's actually going on. There's these energy blasts that's been coming off the sun. So they affect your body in all different kinds of ways. And for ascension, it affects different things that are in you negatively that are coming up to the surface.
So all those blocks that we talk about, getting stuck, these spiritual blocks and memories, the, not letting go of the anger, guilt, shame, and all that stuff. Healing childhood, trauma, all that stuff. When those energies come in, it kind of shakes everything up to the surface, which if you have those energy blocks still there, it can, come out and have symptoms, have flu-like symptoms, but it's actually the energy like shaking its way out.
Yeah, so we both had us. I started like coughing, and it was crazy because I have like this like drainage thing that's happening, right? And so it was going on. Then I would start coughing just for like no reason. Like there's nothing there, and I'm just coughing, and it's like coughing like crazy. And it's very violent me, and it like racks my entire body. And as many women know that have had children before, you cannot cough without other things. So I was struggling so hard this weekend, and luckily I didn't have to work Friday because I called off previously because I thought we were going to take a longer vacation. And then I was going to tell him I could work, but I'm so glad I didn't because I coughed so hard all night, the Thursday night before, and, you know, it was just bad. So anyway, for that, Monday or Friday night, no, it was Monday. So Earl was having a really bad day Sunday. And Saturday, I was so sick. I hurt everywhere, and I couldn't stop coughing, and I complained all day. And Earl probably wanted to kill himself. And it was really bad. I was complaining a lot. I mean, I didn't even like myself. And he actually was a trooper. He didn't say anything. At one point, he did say, he's like, wow, you know, you complain a lot. And I was complaining a lot. Anyway. Yeah.
It wasn't that bad.
No, it was
so I was just frustrated because it felt like nothing was happening fast enough, and I was just getting really tired of living in the system that I know is coming down, but it's, you know, still have to go through the motions.
Well, you know, and he was getting really aggravated, and then on top of it, we're both sneezing, and I'm not sneezing, but I'm coughing like horribly. I can't breathe. And I was coughing all night, and Earl's trying to go to sleep because he had to go to work, and I'm like hacking to death. I'm like dying.
Well, it's the time when those energies come in. It's a time for you to release those blocks, release all that stuff.
And I couldn't figure out what to release either.
Yeah, and I was just holding it in, being angry, and it just kept getting worse. And so, you know, just kind of like must have vibrated out of me at night when I finally went to sleep because I woke up feeling better. But those kind of things happen, and when you're aware of these things, it's a lot better because a lot of people don't know about ascension symptoms, and you can look it up, get the ascension glossary. You know, it's right on the Google or DuckDuckGo or whatever. Just type in ascension glossary, look up ascension symptoms, and it's like a lot of sickness symptoms. So they'll go into the doctor trying to get you know, medicine, things like that, and it's really just like energy vibrating up.
And medicine won't work for this stuff.
And medicine won't work. It'll just, you know, make you feel groggy and poison you.
I haven't taken medicine in a long time, and so the funny thing is that when this was happening, like I couldn't figure out what was going on with me, and I mean, I knew I was dealing with ascension things, but I couldn't figure out what the blocks were, and I haven't been able to really meditate lately, and I've kind of having issues with like not understanding some stuff, and so I was, you know, I wasn't even frustrated, and I even told him this. I said, I'm not frustrated. Whenever the information comes to me, it'll just come to me, and then I'll figure it out, and I'll be done with it. But in the meanwhile, I'm really tired of coughing all night. I mean, that'd be nice. I could get rid of that. So I was in bed, and before I went to bed, I prayed that I'd have understanding on what was going on. And I went to sleep, and I had some weird ass dreams. They were really strange.
It was cool. I mean, without going into specifics, like everyone that you had like an attachment to or had like unresolved business with, they all showed up in your dreams.
Yeah. So that night, I had like 4 people that I haven't, you know, dreamt about in a long time, and I dreamt about them, and it was so funny. I woke up the next morning, like, oh, and I was like, well, thank you, you know, I asked for that. So the next day, I was telling Earl about the dream, and you know, we figured it out between both of us. Sometimes I struggle with that. Anyway, we talked about it, and I knew it was right. And then that afternoon, you know, I was coughing a lot, and I discovered every time I was kind of bitching or something about something, I started coughing even more. So I was hacking, like every time I'd complain, I'd start coughing. Anytime I had some kind of negative thought about anything, I'd start coughing and I could hardly breathe. I mean, it was really bad. And I was like, what the heck? Why am I doing this? So stupid. So I kept having these like attacks, like, I mean, really bad coughing attacks. So if I would, even something like, oh yeah, you know, her hair's messed up or something, you know, I mean, that's ridiculous. But anyway, I would, if I had a thought about somebody else and it was not positive, I started coughing really hard. So I started figuring it out. Okay, yeah, you can't do that anymore.
So all the low vibrational energy, like as soon as you went there, you started having the reaction to cough and
all right. As soon as I asked him what it was, I was shown all this different stuff. Like if the low vibrational thoughts cause this, the low vibrational things are coming out of me. And then I was asking all these questions, and I kept thinking about, okay, you know, every time I cough, this happens. And then I was thinking, okay, I had these dreams. So I went to bed the next day. I had another dream, and it was about the same people, but there were different situations. So I'm like, oh my gosh, what the heck were these stupid dreams? So I went through that, and then I was like, you know what, this is terrible. You know, you keep going through these blocks over and over again, like we talked about before, was you could have a problem with someone, you think you've resolved it, but there's another problem maybe you had earlier and you hadn't resolved it yet. So now you have to take care of that problem. And then when you're going through this stuff, when the blocks are surfacing, they feel horrible. And they're really not that bad, but they're at the surface. And so I was thinking about this, and I was thinking, okay, so now it's at the surface. Deep down you think, oh, it's not that bad, but it's causing me to be sick. So I have to get it out, because if I don't, I'm never going to get rid of this freaking cough. And I want to get rid of the cough. So anyway, I started going through all this stuff, and it was so funny. I turned on YouTube, and this guy that I've listened to a few times, and he's really smart. And I thought it was funny because I just saw the title of his thing, and it was something, a high or something. And I don't even remember. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But his name's Kevin, and I can actually link it up in there, and it was very interesting. So this is Monday, after we had this crappy weekend, and Earl was all pissed, and he never really got over it, and he had to go to work, and he was really mad, and so I was so exhausted because I didn't get any sleep again. I mean, it was really bad. I haven't been getting any sleep because I've been coughing all night, because apparently I'm a negative Nelly. So anyway, I took our son to school, came back home, and I lay down, and I listened to this video, and the video was all about this guy and how he, he was going through blocks, and he said, he's been going through his ascension and everything, and he thought he was doing pretty well, and something came up, just like I'm saying, something came up with me, and he started discovering that he had these blocks, like he couldn't really figure out what's wrong with him, so he asked God, and he was like, he wanted to take a walk, and he said he was going to be completely open on this walk, and that just to show him, ask God, just show me, like whatever, just show me, what's going on, I'm going to be open to it. So the guy started walking, and he saw a kid, and I don't really want to fill you in on everything, so you can watch for yourself, but it was really interesting, and the kid mirrored him, and he felt sorry for this kid, and he realized that kid was representing him when he was a child. And then he just cried it out, and he just got it out of him. And then he said, then after he got it out of him, he's like, felt like, just a crybaby. He's walking, he sees another instance of a smaller kid. This is something that happened to him when he was a kid, and he cried it out again. And he's like, that walk did so much for him, and it got him out. So I'm bawling my eyes out because he's telling this story. And I actually had one of the instances happen to me when I was a kid. And I thought, oh my God, this is incredible. Yeah, and so I cry, and I send, immediately I'm thinking of him, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to send this to him. So I sent it to him, and I said, you need to watch it all the way through. He said, okay. So, but it said so much stuff. And so after that, I went upstairs and took a nap, and I had another dream. And it wasn't as bad, but it was enough. And oh, he also said it was really funny because I know people have a hard time meditating, and I'm one of those people because I fall asleep almost every single time. And he was talking to this lady. It was a live video, and she said, I've been trying to meditate, but every single time I go to meditate, I fall asleep. I don't know what to do. What do I do? And he goes, you go to sleep. And he said, because you have, you need that sleep. That's what they're doing. They're shutting you down. They're giving you that gift of shutting you down so you can get some sleep. And he said, you deserve sleep too. And I thought about it, So I went upstairs and I laid down and I tried to meditate, and immediately I fell asleep. I wake up like 2 hours later and I'm like, holy shit, I felt great. And then I tried to meditate again. I fell asleep again. And it was like, quickly right after.
Yeah.
Fell asleep again. I bet I slept like 16 or 17 hours that day. I just kept going to sleep. I kept passing out. And I was so exhausted.
So these energies coming in, they really take it out of you, and it's bizarre how much rest you need to not just recover from it, but just to like keep pace with it, just to get through it. And I thought that was great when they're like, well, like if you're actively trying to meditate and keeping yourself up, it kind of works against you, and part of meditating is letting your body kind of take over and feel things within you. Mm-hmm. And if you can't do that because you're fighting to stay awake, then get some sleep.
So
heaven's sake.
So I've been feeling guilty because I haven't been able to meditate. Well, here, and I would fight it, and I said, screw it, I'm not doing it anymore. Anyway, and then this is happening. So anyway, I listened to this guy, and I kept falling asleep, and I kept trying to meditate. I kept falling asleep. Meditate, fall asleep, meditate, fall asleep. I'm going to try to do it. It's great. I'm just going to meditate every day because I like getting a nap. So anyway, I was doing that. I came over here to this little house, and I sat on the couch, and I had some stones, and I literally had the door open. I put the meditation music on. I don't even think I made it a minute. I fell asleep again. And the door was wide open. I woke up because I was snoring, and it was like, And then our son comes home, and he comes in, and it was so funny. Our daughter came in too. She's like, man, I didn't know you were over here sleeping. I was like, well, shoot, I didn't mean to. But anyway, in the last week, I got so much out of this sleeping that my head is completely clear because I finally got enough rest, and I feel so good. And like I've been getting all these downloads, and so now I can interpret the downloads because I've had enough sleep. And so it's been a really positive experience.
Yeah, it's great.
So anyway, there was a lot that happened this week, and I had all these dreams. And so I had a dream. I have very vivid dreams, I guess, and they're very weird, but I had this one dream that was very strange. And anyway, at the end, there were these two dragons. There was one dragon across the street, and the dragon looked at me, gave me this dirty look like it wanted to rip my face off, and it was coming towards me. And then as soon as it saw me, another dragon appeared, and they're hitting these windows. And I put my hands up on the window, and I prayed, and I talked to these dragons, and I woke up. So I wasn't afraid at all. And then he and I are having this conversation, which leads into the conversation we're getting ready to talk about. And I listened to my favorite tarot reader, San, and she kind of confirmed every single thing I've been going through. Plus, I listened to my moon sign also, and that got me the rest. And then there was a collective reading, got me the rest. And then all of a sudden, it all just kind of... And then I was listening to Tarot by Jeanine, and Jeanine Morgot, mm-hmm. and she was talking about things that are about to happen. and about this event that everybody keeps talking about. And anyway, Earl calls me in the middle of it. I'm 10 minutes into it, and I said, hey, I'm listening to Jeanine. And he says, I'll call you back. I'm on the way. I was like, okay.
So while she's having all these experiences, I'm at work. I was listening to Esoteric Atlanta with a woman named Brice, and she was having a round table with a couple of her friends talking about Tataria, which I've been delving into, and the abandoned cities and all this stuff, and how we used to have free energy and the living water and all this stuff, and how cities got abandoned, and it's really bizarre. If you guys haven't looked up Tataria, look up Tataria, and there's all kind of crazy stuff about this land that's listed on maps that they try to erase, and they try to erase the history of it. But this gets into like some really bizarre, esoteric kind of timeline type issues. So I guess I want to start by saying, we've known that we're in the end times book of Revelation time of the Bible right now. And there are all kind of clues, and there are all kind of markers that you and I talked about that made us think we were at a certain point. But then listening to Brice, she just mentioned, all this apocalypse, and how the earth is going to be destroyed, and all this crazy stuff in Revelations, how there's going to be these earth changes and earthquakes and volcanoes and monsters coming across the sea and all this stuff. It's like she just mentioned, like, offhand, I think that's already happened, and we've already gone through the 1,000 years of peace. Because after this apocalypse, we're supposed to have 1,000 years of peace with Jesus, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, it says, I think in chapter 20, that they bind Satan and seal him up for 1,000 years, so he can no longer deceive the nations. But then he's let out for a short season. So once he's bound, they let him out. And it kind of hit me, and I got that truth bomb, like, oh my God, I've been looking in the wrong spot. And I really resonated with that. Like, things are linking up, and there's markers. And metaphorically, it made a lot of sense, but nothing real literal was coming out of it. But as soon as I heard that, I got this feeling like, oh my gosh, that's it. So maybe the timeline that we're on, the time of the hero's journey, the part of the story where I thought we're actually a lot further along the path. And so instead of fighting for this 1,000 years of peace, we've already done that. They've already loosed the Satan and the Luciferians. They've already loosed them from the prison, and they've been here a short time to deceive us again. And now we're in the part of the story that's the end battle, like where it's all wiped out completely, right? We've already gone through all that stuff. And so now we're to the point where if it's the final battle, they all go in the lake of fire and we ascend. So that's what it kind of links up with this whole ascension idea. And so I got really excited. I started looking into it. And then all these things start linking up. And I don't know if I should go into like the Tataria stuff.
Well, just a second. So he comes home, and this is right before we went on our vacation. It was the day that we left, Friday. Comes home Friday. He says, I got to tell you something. He's like, oh, just wait. I was like, okay, well, we're getting in the car, and there was a whole bunch of crap happening, and he was like really excited. I was like, okay. And so he's like, oh, wait till we get on the highway. I'm like, okay. So was I driving or you driving?
Yeah, you were driving.
I was driving. And so I'm on the highway and driving, and he starts telling me about this. And I was like, I don't know, man. Because everything fits. Everything fits. That I've been going through what I get from Revelation and what I've heard from my guides, everything about how everything's been. It does fit. Now they didn't come out and say, okay, this is where we are at this particular place. No, they did not, but it does fit. And when I had questions, I'd ask, and I get confirmations about stuff. So I was pretty skeptical about it. So we're talking and everything, and we had a couple conversations about it. I try to keep an open mind. I was kind of getting irritated because my ego was getting in the way, and I didn't want to be wrong about it because I thought it was ridiculous. And then we were thinking about Tartaria, and I was like thinking about it. I think I started driving, or you started driving, and I was kind of looking at my phone, and I was thinking, kind of looking at my phone again, and then we listened to it, and I thought, a little bit of that
kind of fits.
A little bit of it fits. Not everything, but a little bit of it fits, right? So I was thinking, okay, yeah.
I think the difficulty is the earlier part of it was fitting too. Like the
earlier part does fit.
Earlier parts like chapter 14, 15, 16 were kind of fitting really well too.
So, but it also fits with the other, yeah. So it just, it's kind of hard. So anyway, go on vacation, we get back. Saturday or Sunday, whatever that was. So we got back Monday, Tuesday. We got back Tuesday night. You had to go to work on Wednesday.
Doesn't matter.
No, it does matter. So, I think, Wednesday. So I'm at home Wednesday, and I'm like sitting on the couch, and I see that there's this book, and I was going to get it. And I've been wanting to get it for a while. It was called The Gospel of Q. I know it's not QAnon or anything like that, but it was The Gospel of Q, and this is a very old book. And it's from the Nag Hammadi library and stuff. And from Qumran, whenever they found all those texts in those big jars and shit. The clay pots. Big jars and shit. Oh my God. Anyway, so they found all these things. They found the Gospels of Thomas and Mary Magdalene and all that. And Adam and Eve and all that stuff. And anyway, not Adam and Eve. That's any other thing. That's apocryphal stuff. Anyway, doesn't matter. I was searching, and I've looked at this stuff like a million times because I have a whole bunch of books on Kindle and everything that I got for free and everything. I was looking at that. And I have some stuff that I bought, and there's a ton of books over there that I've looked up this stuff a million times. All right? And all of a sudden, I see this book. And I'm like, I look at it, and I don't know. Like, I had to have it. And I'm notoriously cheap for books, okay? So, like, I know that me being a writer, that books don't cost that much to make. So, and I don't want to spend any money on them. And anyway, this book was $25, and I was like, that's ridiculous. And but I'm looking at it. I look at it. When I put it in the cart, and I look at it again, and I don't even know what it's about. I have no idea, but I have to have this book. And I go to look at the information on it, like what it's about, and I don't get hardly anything. I mean, it's like literally a sentence long. It just says the title. Doesn't say anything about what the title means. Nothing. But I know I have to have this book. It's so like absolutely psychotic. And I was trying to put that there. Anyway, so I ordered this book, which is extremely heavy, and it comes and it's ginormous. So obviously it's totally worth $25. And it's this book here. It's a 8.5 by 11. It's got the gold. It's brand new. And so I've never heard of this in my life. OAHSPE. So it means sky, earth, spirit. O is sky, is earth, SPE is spirit. So it's this book, and I thought, I don't know why I had to have it, but here it is. It says, it is a sacred history of the dominions of the higher and lower heavens on the earth for the past 24,000 years. Whew. Being from the submersion of the continent of Pan in the Pacific Ocean, commonly called the Flood or Deluge, to the Cosman era. Also a brief history of the preceding 55,000 years, together with a synopsis of the cosmogony of the universe, the creation of planets, the creation of man, the unseen world, the labor and glory of gods and goddesses in the etherian heavens. Now, It says, it's also with revelations from the second resurrection formed in words in the 33rd year of the Cosmic era. Now,
it's like, whoa.
Yeah, it's kind of insane, right? So wait till you hear this part on how it was written. So this guy wrote this book. He was a dentist. His name was J.B. Newbrough. And he typed this book. His hands typed this book. But he wrote a letter to this editor to get it published because this is what he was told to do.
When did he type it out?
It was in like 1861 or something. And he had to keep it in a drawer for, I don't know, 6 months or something. Don't quote me on that. And then after he did that, then he was supposed to edit it. And you see how big this book is. It would take a while.
It's like 1,000 pages.
It's 869 pages or something.
Jeez.
96 pages. OAHSPE was mechanically written through my hands by some other intelligence than my own. So this book, this guy wrote, he said that the book was written by him. He was sitting at a window. They told him to wake up before dawn, and he was to buy a typewriter. And typewriters back then had to have been like $1 billion.
They were expensive. Yeah.
Anyway.
It's like buying a computer.
Yeah.
You know?
And he got the typewriter, and he learned how to type, and he did everything they told him how to do. And then they told him to sit by this window, and he had to close his eyes. And he said he sat there for like 6 to 9 hours every day. And he said he opened his eyes one time. He said, and when he did, because he said he followed directions, but I don't know if he accidentally opened them or what he did. But when he put his hands down, he felt his hands would move. And he was typing like crazy. And he would be doing that all day long. He wouldn't even move. Like, he wouldn't get up to go to the bathroom or do anything. He was just like in a trance. And it was called automatic writing. And you can look that up. It's a thing. There's people that do it all the time. And what happened was, so when he looked up, he said he saw 3 angels. 1, 2, 3 here. And there was another one behind him. And they were typing. And they were telling him all the information. And it was automatically going into this manuscript, which is this. And basically it talks about everything from the beginning of time till right now in the end time when the heaven on earth is happening. And it is so interesting because what happens is they talk about the like how everything will be and how happy everybody will be and how love is the guiding thing. And so I was curious because when I got it, I never heard of this in my life. Never heard anything. I wonder if anybody else had. So I looked up some stuff and I saw some people on YouTube and there was a guy talking about it. But the book itself, in the book it says this book will come to you when it's supposed to come to you. And it talks about who it comes to and the people that it comes to and the people that will understand the book when it comes to them. And it's very, very interesting because like I said, I look up these types of books all the time. I've never seen it before in my life. I've never even heard of it.
And then you had to have it.
And then I had to have it.
Just drawn to it and had to have it.
I was so drawn to it. And so I found it and I looked on YouTube and there's been a few people that have found it over the years. And they responded on these YouTube videos. Not many. Anyway, I thought that was extremely interesting. So getting to it, there's a section on how to live in these times and what the times look like. And it's exactly what's going on right now, which is crazy. So that's all that's in this book. I mean, there's a ton in this book. So God, ooh, gosh, woo. Well, that hurt. Oh my gosh.
You all right?
I'd be worried I was saying something wrong. Jeez, please. Oh, arm pinched or something. Anyway, So I got this feeling that I should read, I was reading the first chapter and I was getting ready to go to the next one. And then I was like, go to the last one. And I was like, like I used to do that all the time when I was a kid. And I was telling him I always read the last chapter first, so I know how the book ended.
Oh, terrible.
I know with everything. And he's like, read the last chapter. And I was like, yes. So I did. And it's so interesting. And then after I was done, I didn't have to read anything else. It's like, I don't really mind. I don't need to know like how everything happened. I really don't care. But the whole purpose for me to read it is how to the new earth is done, and who's teaching, and how do we learn, and how do the children learn, and how it's going to go from here. And it was so interesting because we're in this last chapter, and that kind of gives you this roundabout thing too. So it's another confirmation. So after all that, I get this book. Earl and I are talking about it, and I'm like, oh, this is really interesting. And I'm trying to read it, and we're like talking back and forth, and I could see little things on how it lines up, and some things that didn't feel quite liney uppy. And then,
so let me go into Tartaria just a little bit. So if you look up Tartaria and look up like abandoned cities in the 1800s and things like that, so there are these photographs of entire cities with not one person in them, and the streets are dirty, and there's these giant, like,
huge cities,
cathedral structures with like horse and buggies next to them, with dirty streets.
Yeah.
And it just, for some reason, it just never clicked that how does a horse and buggy society build these giant stone monuments, right? These giant stone cathedrals, these beautiful architectures,
much like
that.
Much like the pyramids and everything else. I mean,
it just doesn't fit. So the history that we've known just doesn't fit. And I've had this just annoying like problem in the back of my head, like trying to figure this out. As soon as I saw it, I couldn't let it go. So Jeanine, the tarot reader, Tarot by Jeanine, she did a deep dive with her friend Ashley on these abandoned cities. And this was a couple months ago. And basically came out that there was a higher ascended race that was occupying the entire globe. And we'll just say the bad guys somehow took over and made it inhospitable, so they had to leave, and they took over what was already made. And it was just kind of like listening to that at the time. It was like, that didn't really make much sense, but it was definitely something vibrational. They said that something vibrational happened. They lowered the vibration so that the higher vibrational beings couldn't be here anymore, and they had to leave. And when I heard Brice with Esoteric Atlanta say that, I think this is after the 1,000 years, and I think this is when, Satan was loosed from his prison. We're in that section. It kind of made me link up with the Tartarian empire and how those beings had to leave, because if we were living 1,000 years of peace with Jesus, we would have these grand buildings and everything, right? It would be like a living water society of free energy and all that stuff. It was like this time of peace. I imagine that's what it would be. And if they had to let Satan out of his prison, they came out, the bad guys, changed something vibrationally, which means the ascended people had to go, and they took over the planet. And this is, you can look up like the mud flood. This is after the mud flood kind of theory, and the abandoned cities. I mean, just really wacky stuff that you never heard about. And
no, you never heard about them. I've never heard about the mud flood, but now you look it up and you can see pictures of these grand buildings, and they're all like under mud, and they're like digging them out. And then what they find is they'll see this building, and it'll be this amazing building, and then they start digging down even further, and they'll realize the whole bottom half of the building was covered in mud.
Covered in mud, and
We
the
have
cities,
no idea where
like,
it came from.
a lot of our modern cities are built on top of this mud covered, city that was completely destroyed or taken over. And then you see pictures of these grand architectures and dirty streets with like horses and buggies pooping all over the place.
Right, it makes no sense. So
it makes no sense. It doesn't match up.
Yeah, there's pictures, and you can look them. You can find them. There's places where you can find them. A lot of we found them on Telegram, but there's pictures of Russia, and on the streets they had these things that they were like these metal discs.
Yeah, inlaid metal.
Beautiful.
In the ground, coming from a grand palace.
And they covered it in asphalt. And somebody said that, no doubt it would be hard for horses to walk on those metal discs.
Absolutely. It would be so bumpy, it'd be worse than cobblestone.
Right. So they covered it. They covered everything up. And, nobody knew about it. Nobody knew. And they said what those discs did is they helped generate energy. And they had these, if you know your shit about Russia, you see this beautiful building that one looks like an ice cream cone top, and it's got the cross with the moon.
Yes.
And that's all part of the Tartarian structures and the free energy and everything. They all look like that. These beautiful, beautiful things, and they've been around forever. And
you'll find them on every continent, too.
Everywhere, here too. And so there's buildings still up now that are Tartarian buildings. There's one in New York City. And there's one in California, at least one, but they've covered these things up. They covered their windows. They had different, and it kind of reminds you of this. There we go, right there, that thing there, that swirl. They have those, and they would be like a swirl here, swirl there, there. It's like this whole Celtic cross type thing, and it was an energy generator, and they had those in windows. And those things were everywhere. And they have these giant magnets, and they're all over the world. And it sounds nuts, but they're actually magnets.
It's crazy. It sounds crazy.
Like the Louvre. And
the more you look into it, the more you see that this whole planet was occupied by a higher society of being. Not higher society. Higher vibrational being, like an ascended being. A whole race that had a free energy. They were using, like, they say the Romans had all these baths and things. Well, it was actually, water holding systems for the living water that created the energy, and the energy was like came into the water, and they made the living water, and all these remnants and things are all over the place. And they had these star cities, and the star cities were like power generators and things like that. But the biggest thing I think that just sounds nuts is like during the gold rush that they told us happened in America, where everyone ran out west and San Francisco was like a mining town. They have a picture of San Francisco, the sprawling metropolis, sometime in the 1800s, and there's not a single person in the city, and the sun's up. Yeah. So there would have to be somebody.
Bizarre.
Like empty, completely empty. It's a photograph. But that sprawling metropolis went from a gold mining town to the giant sprawling metropolis of San Francisco in 30 years. Yeah. And it's just impossible for that to happen in our modern, building age.
So that's the Arc de Triomphe. That's in France. And they have those things everywhere. And they're like weird, like what's the purpose of this building? And let me see if I can get
So everything from the architecture was always really ornamental. And when you looked at it, it gave you this sense of awe and wonder and made you happy. And they turned it into
what do they say
our modern architecture is called brutalism.
Yeah.
So it's all square and gray. And they say because it costs too much money and all that stuff. But
there it is. It looks like a giant magnet, right? So they said that those are like power generators, right? And so they have those at all these big major cities, right?
And then from the look of from the top down, if you fly a drone over, all the streets, look like a circuit board all leading to this thing. Anyway, I don't know if you believe that or not, but the more, the first time I heard it, I thought it was kind of ridiculous, but something in the back of my head told me to keep listening to it. And so all this stuff is linking up.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got...
It's crazy, but it's crazy, but the more you look into it, the more it makes sense. And then you think, okay, what always bothered me when I was a kid was they would tell you in history, you see these gorgeous buildings. They were beautiful. And then you see these nasty, dirty ass streets. And I'm thinking, this doesn't make any sense. Why didn't they build a better street? And then, whenever the whole like bubonic plague and all that shit came out, people were throwing their shit in the street. I mean, come on, these people aren't like civilized. They didn't build these buildings. Like it didn't make any sense. How do you have like you said, a horse and buggy society, and they built these amazing structures? And how do they do it? They would say like the angles of something. There weren't power tools that could have done that at that time.
Yeah.
There weren't things that could have done that, and I never like thought of that at all. Like I was just like, okay, somebody was amazing and they built it. And then you get to be an adult, and then you're looking at it and thinking that doesn't make any sense.
Or they tell you like slaves did it.
Right. Well, how the hell they do it?
Probably just had 1,000 slaves lift
I
the
don't
stone.
care
it's like,
how many
come on.
slaves you had. You could have done that.
But yeah, I didn't think of it. But also look at the timing of all this.
Yeah.
So you have all these grand structures. You have horse and buggy societies, but this is in the same time that the Industrial Revolution started, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's when we started really burning things to produce power. And instead of having the free energy to run society, they disrupted the frequency somehow. So maybe the energy systems didn't even work, or they didn't know how to use them. So they started digging up, burning coal or wood, coal, oil, all that stuff to produce energy. And then we have this huge industrialization where machinery and soot and burning starts to shape our society since then. But it all happened all around the same time.
Yeah, and here's the grid. So you can see the magnet, right? And look at how the streets are built.
Yeah.
That grid. Now that's a toroidal field that comes in and out. Now, hold on, and I'm going to show you some more below edge stuff. So these are different places. One is the Arc de Triomphe in Paris. Then one's in Sao Paulo, Brazil, Washington Square Park, and New York. New York. And one's in Lisbon. I mean, they're everywhere. Now, why do they have these things? There's literally no freaking purpose, right? Doesn't make any sense, right? Now, all the cities are built around these things, and they all branch out like this stuff, and they all had a lot of things in common. Here's even more. Okay? That's this old structures. Now, they're saying that these were built in
18...
Before that.
60 or...
They were before that. Some of them were.
So, in any case, the histories don't match up.
No.
Something's seriously wrong.
Here's the road in Russia.
Yeah, imagine driving a buggy over that with wooden wheels.
Yeah, that's the road in Russia. Now, wait a minute. Hold on before you get any further.
And how much time that would take for a blacksmith to...
I mean, that's ridiculous.
To make all that stuff.
I just don't believe that they'd have had all the... underneath all the roads. Are you serious? Mm-mm. It just doesn't add up. And you start thinking about it, it really doesn't add up.
Okay, so we've got... why is this here? So we've got the timeline of, mentioning that we're in a different spot in Revelation, right? And then we've got Tartaria, and then we've got Jeanine and Ashley talking about how there was some kind of frequency change that let them take over, let the bad guys take over. Then you start thinking, okay, well, if we're in a different spot and they let Satan out, then, Satan and his minions, Gog and Magog or whatever, could have come out. And guys, I'm not a big Bible guy, but this stuff is like linking up.
And then here's the Tartarian pillars. And these would be almost impossible to build, especially when you're at the beginning of learning how to build bricks. I mean, come on. They're lying to us about everything. And it's insane.
And they're turning all of our all of our architecture is just cement and
It's just ugly
glass,
buildings.
and it's not ornamented nearly to the extent of this. And okay, so yeah, Jeanine and Ashley talk about the vibration change, and they did something, and they said, I think she said they did something to the sun, something about the sun and the vibration, right? And
Yeah.
so then we fast forward to today. Jeanine had another show where she looked into the event. Mm-hmm. So with all this voting inconsistencies and the political scene that we're in and the war that's going on in Ukraine and Russia and all this stuff, which is where the Khazarians once had their land. Look that up. Anyway, there's supposed to be some kind of event that will signal to all the sleepers out there and us too, because we're looking for signs too. Some kind of event that's going to signal the fall of this crazy system that we're in right now, mm-hmm. and signal the beginning of the coming golden age or whatever, And we've talked about it. You've had prophetic visions of it, mm-hmm. and you said that there would be something in the sky that people would recognize.
Yeah. I got a while ago that, I talked to you about my visions and stuff like that. I'll get these visions of things on how it's going to happen. All these dreams, they're not dreams, but they're visions. And I'm clearly completely awake, when they're happening. And it'll be very, very strong. And this was one. And it was about there would be an event in the sky. And everybody would know what it is. Immediately they would know.
And it would be to the extent so big that they would know that it was God doing it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't the fact that a ordinary human did this. It was an event, a biblical type event.
So you had that vision. That was a couple years ago?
Yeah, I've had several. That was one of them.
That was one of them. So we've had this idea that this event would happen to where everyone would see, and we'd stop all this nonsense with our governmental systems and the way we're doing things here. And then so Jeanine, everyone's been talking about it. Jeanine did a reading on it today and said that she also confirmed that with Brice. They did a reading that said there would be a sign in the sky, months ago. I saw that one too. Today she talked about the event, pulled a bunch of cards on it, and what did she say? It was something came out about 2, and she was kind of thinking that it might be the poles, because there's 2 poles, and there might be some kind of shift, but she definitely got the event was happening, and that it was predestined, it was destined to happen. And one of the big sayings in the community is no one can stop what's coming. Well, no one can stop it because it's not humans that are doing it.
Right.
And so that kind of confirmed that. And it's also why we have to be patient and we can't just do it is because obviously humans aren't doing it. It's an event that's going to happen that humans have no control over. So it's not like they've got the works in the back room and they're just waiting for the right moment to hop out and do this thing. Mm. No, it's already going to happen. So I forget the details of how it came up, but it was definitely going to be some kind of sign in the sky, and she was asking if there was going to be a cataclysmic event around it, and it wasn't a huge global event. It was something to do with the water, though, right? There was a water event,
well,
but it wasn't going to be. It wasn't going to be global flood this time or anything. It was localized, something about the water.
God promised that he would never do that again. Yeah. That's the rainbow.
And God promised he wouldn't do that again. but the Q posts always say watch the water, so it kind of made us think of watch the water. So how in the world did we tie that to?
Are you asking me?
Yeah, the moon. How did that get tied to that?
So I was talking to him about he came home after work, and I was sitting on the couch. I was laying down on the couch, and I was listening to I watched that show, and he came home, and I said something about well, I finished watching that. What did you think? He said, "Oh, that's pretty interesting." I said, he goes, remember you had that sky event thing? And I said, yeah. And then all of a sudden I got something, and I said, yeah, I'm like tying it all together. There's something about the sun. And I said, all these solar flares and everything that are coming on. And she said something about the sun. She said, maybe there's something about the sun. That was in the video.
Mm-hmm.
And I started thinking about it. And I got, in 2016, I knew the sun was different. I told him, I said, the sun's different. And he said, what are you talking about? I said, it is different. There's something different about the sun. And I burn like crazy, and I never burn.
It's almost like microwave or
I felt
magnetic
like,
or something.
It
crazy.
felt magnetic to me. And I said to him that it feels like a magnet. And it was really funny. And then some people later on started talking about how the sun felt magnetic. And I was saying that already for like over years.
And if you really kind of pay attention, the sun isn't really yellow anymore. It's very bright white.
Bright white.
The light outside is white. It's not really yellow.
Right, it's a star.
Yeah.
So.
But I remember it just being this vivid yellow color, and now you look, it's just like bright white.
Yeah, it was very yellow. Now it's white. So that was another thing, right? So we're talking, and you said something to me. I'm trying to think of what it was. It was really funny.
I had to leave for a chiropractor appointment, so we were right in the middle of this conversation.
It was this incredible conversation.
I left, and then...
That was before that. We talked about all that beforehand.
Yeah, I don't remember now.
Yeah. So I was telling him how I was listening to her, and I said, there's something about that. It's like, that's going to happen. Like, that's the event's going to happen. And I said, what if, those solar flares have been burning up. So those CMEs have been happening, and they've been happening a lot. And I said, there's something about the sun. And I was like, you know what? Because I was listening to San, and San said, the moon is gone. The moon disappears. And I told him, I was like, oh my God, the moon disappears. And then he looks at me and he goes, there's another sun behind it. And I said, yeah, there's another sun behind it. But there was a whole bunch of conversation before. Yeah. It was such an incredible conversation.
It was crazy. All of a sudden, she's like, the moon is gone. And I'm like, oh my God, there's another sun. And then we both looked at each other like, oh my God, there's another sun.
So then he comes over and he gets out the Bible. Which is funny because he never does that.
I'm not like a huge Bible guy. This is crazy.
He's not at all. In fact, I had to basically shove his face. So I've read Revelation enough to drive him crazy, and he pretty much knew where it was, so he went right to it.
So all these theories, there's all this stuff just linking up, and everybody's got a little piece of it, and all these little pieces are starting to come together, but it's like it's hard to recommend looking into something because not any one thing has all the answers, right? Like this one has a lot of the answers. The Bible here has a lot of the answers, but a lot of the pieces that fit together we got from other places.
Well, you have to. First of all, let me explain this to you, and I have before, I believe. You have to keep seeking the information, or you're not going to find it. And if you think you're going to get it the first time you look at it, I doubt it's going to come to you. Because it's very difficult to understand.
This Bible used to be like this high, full of 700, 800 some books. And they chopped it all off, and this is all you got. So there are good things that are encoded in this that you've picked up on that are absolutely real and true. So I can say that. You have to be careful because the bad guys manipulated this. Obviously, it went from here to here, and
what I told him is it's there, stuff's there, but there's also a lot of stuff that's not there, and the stuff that's not there is fine because if you're seeking God, you're gonna get the information.
You're gonna get it.
Just like he and I have been getting. Just like we sat here, we're talking, we see this. So I say, it's funny because this week I've been getting a lot of information, a lot of downloads, and I was like really feeling everything today. I mean, it's been crazy, especially with reading that other book and reading this and getting sleep. I'm awake more, and yeah.
I know where I wanted to go with that. So it's hard to recommend like looking into stuff because not everybody has all the answers. So I delved deep into quantum physics, and also the like secret space program stuff. And the secret space program stuff says that the moon is hollow. It's actually a spaceship like the Death Star that was flown over here, tidal locked with the Earth to terraform the Earth so that it would be hospitable for the inhabitants to come down.
Which sounds absolutely insane.
Which sounds insane, right? But if you take into like all these pieces, somebody had to take over, do something to mess with the vibration of the Earth so that the inhabitants had to leave and they could take over. The cities were abandoned, and then they flooded them with orphans and.
And that's actually true. They had orphan trains.
Yeah, look up like orphan trains.
They didn't know where they got all these kids from.
So they had to populate the Earth with these human slaves to run all their stuff and dig the mines and bring in this industrial revolution and everything else. So it's all starting to link up. And if it's true that the moon was flown and linked with the Earth, what if they linked it so that it covered the second sun that had the vibrational energy to bring the planet up to the full God consciousness vibration that it had before? So they could.
So we're not getting the rays from the sun. We're not getting that vibrational,
we're not getting that extra energy from another source because they put the moon in front of it.
And we wouldn't be getting the feminine source. We got the masculine source, and that's why everything is so unbalanced here.
So this whole Bible, they took out all the divine feminine energy out of it.
Right.
Everything's centered around the sun, right?
They make it a complete patriarchal society. Women have nothing to do with anything.
Yeah, they turned Magdalene into a whore and everything else. They just made women look bad. And it was the men that took over society, right? And it's the masculine energy that rules the world right now. And it could very well be that they put the moon, if it were a spaceship or whatever it is, if it's even that, but they blocked the sister star or the feminine star, blocked that energy completely, right? Which is why us humans have developed the last few hundred years without being balanced in the feminine masculine energy, which cut us off from our true divine source, which also cut us off from divine understanding, which also calcified our pineal gland, which also made us little robots to go do whatever they told us to do, right?
Right. We're in a complete slave system right now.
Yeah, so we're in this slave system. So this brings us back to, okay, the event. What if, can I say it?
Well, yeah, go ahead. We already
what if the event that people see in the sky is going to be the moon disappearing
or blowing
or completely blowing up, and there being another sun behind it? Holy crap.
So we kind of
it sounds nuts, but that would line up with Revelation when God will rain down the holy fire and burn up Satan, because the lower vibrational entities that the Luciferians are cannot survive in the high vibrational environment that would happen if the moon were moved out of the way,
right,
and the new vibrational energies could rain down.
Isn't that cool? So we had this whole big thing today. That was
It sounds so crazy.
It does. We're nuts. But yeah, so, no, I think it's right.
You heard it here, folks. Awakening talk. The moon's going to blow up. And it's going to be the sister sun's going to show up. It's going to be a Luke Skywalker planet with two suns, no moon.
So Jeanine says that people are going to think it's a bad thing at first, and then they're going to be assured, like, within the year that it's actually a good thing. And so it was funny. She didn't say this stuff about the moon. Earl and I got this.
No, this is us coming up with this crazy idea, but it feels right.
She was saying that there was something with the sun, and I was talking to him, and I'm like, I told him about the sun, and then I told him about San, when San had the thing and the moon disappears, and it was a question mark. And she's like, I listened to the whole thing, and she's like, I don't know what this, she was kind of going through all different stuff. And it was so funny because I kept listening to it. I listened to the one time, and I kept going back to that, and I'm thinking, the moon disappears. This woman is amazing. She's incredible. Tarot reader. San Tarot. Amazing. S-A-N. And anyway, she is just my hero. No, she's really good. She's a really good tarot reader. She's very intuitive, and she reads the cards in just a different way. And you have to listen to it. But between everything that I've heard this week, between everything we know, and we've researched about everything that's been going on in Tartaria and Revelation and this 1,000 Years of Peace and all that, it makes complete sense with this moon thing. So if you haven't heard about the moon being a base, you're probably thinking these people are off their rocker. And that's okay. I don't care.
That's all right.
I mean, everybody probably thinks we're nuts anyway. It's fun anyway, just to even think about it, because it's a different take, that's for sure.
All I can say is if everyone thinks we're crackpots and then the moon blows up, then they'll say, oh yeah, those two crazy people were talking about it.
No. That's cool. We didn't blow it up though, so.
No, so, oh my gosh.
Yeah, but I mean, if you think about, so if that does happen, I'm just gonna say when it happens, it's going down.
It feels right. It feels like it's gonna happen.
Right, it's gonna happen. So when it does happen, don't be scared. I mean, people are gonna go batshit crazy, and that's what it's gonna be. They're gonna be terrified, but you don't have to be terrified because, for one, God wins. So all this bad stuff is just gonna take care of itself. The planet's not gonna blow up. None of that stuff.
This is also. This ties in with a lot of what David Wilcott was saying.
You to say that about the
he has a new book coming out called The Michael Prophecies, and it's something that he channeled in the late 90s. And he started going through his notes, and all of it pertained to today, like modern time, like this timeline right now. And it's pretty crazy. It's just going to be like 1,000 pages, or it was a long. It
would be crazy if he says anything about that damn moon.
Yeah, it would be crazy. But basically, bottom line is like the Earth isn't going to go through all this catastrophic Earth changes, right? That everyone's scared of. The earthquakes and the volcanoes and the floods and all this stuff. There's going to be disruption for sure. But we're gonna in the Jeanine read, she says we're going to be looking at a completely different world. It's going to be completely different than what we know right now.
It would be completely different. You think if you had two suns, everything would look completely different. It would be so bright. The colors would be different. Everything would be more vibrant. I was talking to him about it, and I was thinking, like when you turn on a computer and you have like a laptop and you have the cord plugged in, it's like way brighter and you can see better, and you see the colors better and everything. Imagine having two suns. Imagine the different colors. Imagine all that. Imagine the energy. You know how you can feel the energy from the sun. Imagine, wait a minute. You know how you feel I'm excited because you know how you feel the energy from the sun.
Yeah.
When you go out to the beach or whatever and you feel happier, right?
Yeah.
Imagine 2 suns.
Yeah.
So,
extra happy.
Yeah, you'd be so happy, right?
But also, in all this spiritual ascension, awakeness, and all this stuff that the spiritual community is going through about raising the vibration to be ready for the solar flare, or the solar flash, or the event, or the Symbolica fire, or whatever happens. Like raising our body's vibration so that we can handle the vibrational energies of some kind of event that's going to raise the entire planet's vibration. If the sun blows up or the moon blows up and there's a sun behind it and floods us with all this vibrational energy, our bodies have to be ready for it. And what's great, the good news is all the dirty Luciferians that are running, the small people underground and trafficking people and doing all their shenanigans are just going to go, and that's it. They're done. Lake of fire. They're getting thrown in the lake of fire.
Yeah. It's actually pretty cool.
I mean, yeah. So, come on. Anyway, I wanted to read this.
Oh, yeah, this is really cool.
This is Revelation 20. I'll just read it. Verse 2. And he laid upon the dragon that old serpent, which is the devil and Satan, and bound him 1,000 years. Okay, so we already went through that, I think. And cast him into the bottomless pit, and shut him up, and set the seal upon him, that he should deceive the nations no more, till 1,000 years should be fulfilled. So shut him up for 1,000 years, sealed him up, can't deceive the nations. And then right after that, they say, and after that, he must be loosed a little season. Now, why the hell do they got to let him out?
I'm not God, I don't know.
So, I'm thinking now that was the time that they came out, they lowered the vibrational system somehow with the moon, made it inhospitable for the advanced civilization that was on Earth, the Tartarian culture. They all left. They took over, populated the Earth with their little minion humans to be their slave race, put us in the factories. You've seen all the pictures of the orphan kids working the factories. Where are all those kids working factories? Maybe there weren't adults around, And if you really think about it, it would only take one generation of kids being taught in a totalitarian institution the history of the Earth, and then they would propagate that lie for generations to come. So our great grandparents,
well, look at us, we didn't know. I mean, we listened to our teachers too.
Could have just been taught this false history. We didn't know anything about it. They're saying, it's the Romans, it's Romans.
Well, look, I mean, they've already tried to do this bullshit again. Think about that stupid math the kids are learning now.
Oh my god!
I mean, that's dumb as shit.
Crazy.
Why the hell would you even do that?
So he's loosed for a small season. Well, a couple hundred years would seem pretty small in cosmic timing, right? Blah 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 blah. Set judgment upon. Blah blah blah.
You don't say blah blah blah.
Oh, I did. And when the 1,000 years expired, Satan shall be loosed out of his prison, and shall go out and deceive the nations which are in the four quarters of the earth, Gog and Magog, to gather them together to battle, the number of whom is as the sand of the sea. So you've got all these minions taking over the globe, deceiving and lying to everybody. It sounds pretty obvious that that's what's going on right now. You've got the NWO,
the news,
the central banking Rockefeller, Rothschild, Davos group ruling the world, and all these terrible corporations. The media,
our governments,
just lies after
not
lies
just
after
one
lies
like
after lies.
Government.
Yeah, and who's the king of lies? Satan. It makes sense that they loosed him, took over the globe. Took over the buildings, tore all the beautiful stuff down, started building these awful, terrible buildings.
Look at all
making
the homeless
everybody.
People. I mean, honestly, none of this shit makes sense. There's plenty of money for everybody. There's plenty of everything, and there's plenty of space. There's plenty of places to live. you know, we know that just from traveling out west. I mean, there was nothing for miles and miles and miles.
Yeah,
I mean, there's plenty of land.
We're living in this fear of lack, and there's so much abundance here on earth. It's insane. Okay, and they went up on the breadth of the earth, encompassed the camp of the saints about, and the beloved city. So they went out, they took over everything, and the beloved city, kicked out the saints, you know. And the very next thing says, and fire came down from God out of heaven and devoured them. Well, wouldn't that extra sun just burn everybody up?
And, you know, people are saying, oh, it's fire. No, like, once again, Revelation is a very symbolic.
Well, it's John's prophetic dream of metaphor, right?
Prophetic dream is a vision. And visions have, it's like, you know, when you have a dream, and you could have a dream that you were talking to a cat. Well, you know, I mean, I don't know, you might have been talking to a cat. Could have just been like, you know, a lazy person or a, you know.
Yeah.
You know,
so
an Egyptian.
So after that, after, you know, he gets cast into all this fire and brimstone and burns up and gets put in a lake of fire and is destroyed forever. Then, right after that, it goes into this ascension event where we merge as humans with God in this beautiful heaven on earth scenario with a new heaven, a new heaven and a new earth, because those before had cast away or something. And so, dude, it all fits.
Yeah.
It all fits.
Yeah, it does.
And there's a spider on the ceiling. It's a sign.
The ceiling will come down.
So, I don't know. I don't know how to leave this other than if the moon blows up, it's a good thing.
You heard it from Awakening Talk.
You heard it from Awakening Talk first. And work on clearing your blocks. Work on raising your vibration, because when that moon blows and the sun comes through, you better have a lot of those blocks out, because it's going to feel
like shit.
Like you're getting burned up from the inside, because you are. But this I think is the event that you see it in the sky. You know God's real. You know, all the masks of lies are going to fall.
The part about the white thing was true too, like the throne, the white.
Which one was that? What do you mean?
It was in Revelation about the white when God comes.
Yeah.
It's 21 or something.
Right, after Satan gets burned up.
Yeah.
He talks about the, you know, New Jerusalem coming and, you know, going there and dwelling with God. But it's more of we're talking about like a metaphor of God, like being within you, like being one with God. Our connection to the Creator is going to come back. Like our masculine, feminine energies are going to merge, and your pineal gland is going to break open, and you're going to have this connection.
So you can read that part too. And he that overcometh shall inherit all things. So we overcome. We're ascending. We're getting rid of our blocks. You know?
Yeah, so the abominable and the murderers and whoremongers, sorcerers, idolaters, all liars shall have their part in the lake of fire.
The fearful and the unbelieving.
So that's what we're saying. This ascension event, the really bad ones, the ones that are 95% bad, are going to burn up in this ascension event. And that's like Jerusalem coming down.
Yeah, but there was a white thing.
Yep. We'll find it.
I don't know what. Anyway, it doesn't really matter, I guess. So you can check it out yourself. But I hope you liked our
very excited. Very excited for the moon to blow up. Oh, the other thing.
Me too.
The other thing, there's all these moon disaster movies coming out.
Oh, yeah.
And you always know when something's going down, they always come out with movies like years ahead of time, you know, to seed our consciousness with doomsday scenarios.
So we got a lot of The Edge of Tomorrow and all that crap, you know, all these disaster events.
Moonfall is coming out, and then there was some TV show a few years ago where the moon busted, and they're like, people had like 1 year to live or something like that. Anyway, they're seeding us with all this consciousness
To be fair.
To fear when you see the moon break apart, you're gonna freak out. Everyone's gonna.
I'm sure that won't be a.
Everyone's gonna go nuts.
I'm gonna stay at home and eat some Snickers. I'm gonna have to go get some food this week.
Yeah, you might want to get some extra stuff just to have a little extra food just in case.
We're gonna make another video here about buying extras.
I can't get over it. This is crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy. We are living in the craziest time.
Yeah.
But who knows? I mean, we've been lied to.
We might be a bunch of nutballs too. So.
Yeah. And if the moon doesn't blow up, even better. I don't know.
I don't know. I'm not very excited about that.
I'm excited about the moon blowing up and seeing the sun.
I'll be honest with you, I am too. That's gonna be awesome.
Anyway, we're all gonna be fine.
Get some friggin' popcorn, some hot dogs.
Anyway, thanks to Jeanine, Ashley, San,
Esoteric, Atlanta.
Brice, Esoteric, Atlanta. John Claude probably was in there too.
God, my brain.
Yeah, God and all that.
All my blocks.
Yeah.
Harry Potter.
Go get some blocks out. Love you guys. We'll see you next
Bye.
time.